Idabo, New York, yay. Albert, Oklahoma, yay.
Boys, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to get voting rights through. Not this session.
Well, I must say I don't understand, Mr. President. Only a month ago, in your State of the Union message, you made it
Reverend King, I've been to the well, and the well has provided. I got the votes of Medicare, aid to education. All these benefit the poor and disenfranchised. And you know who that is.
Please don't misunderstand. We are very grateful, Mr. President.
The Attorney General Katzenbeck here has written a beautiful piece of legislation. You think I want to carry that around in my ass pocket? You see, it's this problem I got in Southeast Asia. The Vietnamese. Them Southerners up on the hill, what are they but another bunch of colored people? And I go up there crawling for more aid. That's a must for Vietnam. Mr. President, old Wilbur Mills will say, you're going to have to raise taxes, declare war, call up the reserves. And by the way, that's going to cost you your war on poverty, your voting rights for Negroes. Just like World War II killed the New Deal, well, there ain't going to be World War III, I promise you. I'm going to nip this in the bud, I am. And as soon as I do, I'll send that bill up and more, I promise you. There will be no delay.
Well, Mr. President, we're going to be down in Selma, marching for the vote, and we expect you'll take notice to what we do down there.
During preparations for Martin Luther King's second attempt to march to Montgomery, 4 white men beat to death a Boston clergyman, one of the 1,500 marchers. The slain Reverend, James Reeb, had come to Selma in solidarity with Negroes attempting to register to vote. Amid growing concern about increasing racial violence in Alabama, Governor George Wallace is reportedly preparing a trip to Washington, D.C. to see the president. Meanwhile, demonstrations continue in front of the White House.
Call him off!
Well, we didn't organize them, Mr. President.
Call him off! Get out there, both of you! Call him off!
Daddy?
Why, those goddamn agitators wake you?
Oh, I heard you yelling.
Oh, sorry, honey.
Tell you how it can't be done. It's still strange to us, though, how millions of dollars can be spent every day to hold troops in South Vietnam, and our country cannot protect the rights of Negroes in Selma and Marion, Alabama.
It's outrageous!
So we have
now, everything's got to be now. Well, they want the whole goddamn world with a fence around it.
I just gave standby authorization to federalize the Alabama Guard. We just need your order.
We have to do it, Mr. President. Wallace won't protect those marchers.
You want me to send troops into Alabama, lose Stennis, Dirksen, Russell, every conservative vote I got hanging on a thread of spittle? Be Reconstruction all over again. Your friend Bobby Kennedy could have given me that advice.
Martin Luther King and his group of pro-communists have instigated these demonstrations by lawless Negro mobs in Birmingham. But the law-abiding citizens of both races, they are fed up with this rioting and disruption, led by so-called clergymen and their communist-inspired followers. I am therefore sending 250 state troopers into that city, supported by 500 other law officers of this state. I will meet our enemies face to face. I will not surrender.
Mr. President, Wallace is only coming up here in order to placate you. He wants things to get so bad down there that you have to put the troops in.
Then he'll lambaste you for invading his sovereign state, and that's how he'll save himself.
Goddamn runty little bastard! I want his pecker in my pocket.
The thing we have to do, we have to get him to ask for the troops. To say he wants rights, he wants peace, but he just can't control his own people. Make it his failure. That's what we have to do.
In an interview today, Governor Wallace denied that Alabama state troopers and sheriff's deputies used unnecessary force in routing Negro marchers in Selma.
Call the speaker. Tell him I want to address Congress on television. That goddamn bill's going up now.
One more, Governor Wallace. A little closer. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sit down, Governor. Over here. That's it. Over there. Oh, right in the corner. Corner, Governor. That's it. There, Governor. You wanted to see me?
Yes, Mr. President, I want to thank you for agreeing to see me on...
Goddamn demonstrators! Keeping Ladybird up, disturbing my daughter's rest. Turn that thing off!
Subversives, most of them. Communist Party's behind the whole thing.
You know what I do? I've seen some of them Secret Service boys out there with itching powder. Sprinkling on the back of some of their necks. They drop them signs they're carrying, scratch themselves raw.
That's a great idea. I'm going to give my people on that.
Better than that, Governor. We ought to go out there. We got all those television cameras. You see those television cameras that got out there?
Yes, sir.
Well, why don't we go out there and we'll turn them cameras around and we'll announce that you decided to register every Negro in Alabama.
Mr. President, as much as I...
Nick, give me one of them there Constitutions.
Yes, sir.
Nick's got the Constitutions. Hey, thank you, Nick. Now, Governor, I'm sure that somewhere in here it says that Negroes have the right to vote.
Yes, Mr. President, and they have the right to vote in Alabama, but it's the county registrars. They under Alabama law, they're independent, and I don't have the power.
George, now don't you shit me about who's got the power in Alabama.
Mr. President.
Now, come on, Governor. You're a persuasive man. Hell, I was watching this morning on all three networks. You were attacking me.
I wasn't attacking you, Mr. President. I was attacking the idea.
Idea, hell, you were attacking me, George, and I tell you, you're so damn persuasive, I nearly changed my mind. You have marvelous powers of persuasion, don't you, Governor? Governor Wallace, you and I shouldn't be sitting there thinking about 1965. We ought to be thinking about 1995, when you and I belong in our graves. Now, you got a lot of poor people down there in Alabama, a lot of ignorant people, people who need jobs, people who need the future. You can do a lot for them. In 1995, Governor, what do you want left behind? You want a great big marble monument saying George Wallace, he built, he protected the weak, the poor, the impoverished people of his great state? Or do you want a little piece of scrawny pine laying there in a harsh caliche soil saying George Wallace, he hated? I'm sorry, Governor. I interrupted you. You wanted to tell me something?
Mr. President, I've had the opportunity to reevaluate. And I think that I just may not be able to get things under control without some assistance.
Governor, I'll give you any assistance that's mine to provide. Now, what specific measures would you suggest?
The President and I have spoken, and I have assured him that I abhor brutality. And in my eternal commitment to law and order, I will do whatever it takes to maintain the peace.
When it is in our interest to deepen the breach between them.
But wouldn't we lose credibility throughout the world if we give up as you propose? Wouldn't this be an irreparable blow, George?
A worse blow, Mr. President, would be that the mightiest power in the world is unable to defeat one of the most backward.
With the 71 battalions, with Westy's plan, this war is winnable. I say we go in and we get the job done.
But can we get the job done? What if they put their stack in? What makes you think if we put in the numbers you're suggesting that Ho Chi Minh won't match us man for man?
This means greater bodies of men, Mr. President, which will allow us to cream them, their firepower against ours.
Why does anyone think that they will accommodate us by fighting our kind of war? Their tactics are terror and sniping. They have better access to intelligence.
Why is this?
It's because the South Vietnamese government is heavily infiltrated with Viet Cong agents, Mr. President.
What other road can we go? Negotiations, stopping the bombing? These make us look weak with cup in hand.
Better to lose now than after committing 200,000 men.
I disagree. We have to make a stand here, and if we fail, it can be chalked up to any number of things. Corruption among Saigon's leaders, for instance. Then we can get out. But this government will have stood up to the communists.
But we won't get out, Bob. We will double our bets and get massacred in the rice paddies.
So what's your advice, George? Cut and run?
Mr. President, no great captain in history ever hesitated to make a tactical withdrawal when conditions were unfavorable to him.
Does anyone else here agree with what George is saying? I've asked Clark Clifford to join us. Clark, do you have any comments at this time?
I have a question for General Wheeler.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, General.
Good morning.
If the president proceeds with his plan, what, in your view, would constitute a victory?
What is the definition of victory in this contest?
Yes.
A military victory in the traditional sense is not what we are seeking. To eliminate every last Viet Cong guerrilla could require as many as 500,000 men in 5 years.
No one's considering those kind of numbers. No one.
Our objective is to reach a stalemate, whereby we are attriting the enemy faster than he can replace his losses. This is the so-called crossover point.
And how many men will this require?
A substantially smaller number, depending on how the North Vietnamese respond.
Well, might they respond by sending in, say, 100,000 troops?
We regard this as unlikely.
Well, this is less than half the men they have under arms.
Well, it's certainly possible. They already have 50,000 men down there.
And to achieve the 10-to-1 superiority, which I understand is barely adequate for conventional forces in a guerrilla situation, how many troops would be required to meet this possible threat?
As I said, this would be unlikely.
1 million troops, is that not correct, General? You see, we would need 1 million men in Vietnam.
We could certainly use someone who knows something about Vietnamese culture around here. So, what's the outside number of civilians?
Well, 4 hooches this size, we use 6 per, so 24.
24 for a target this size? That seems high.
That's how we figure it, sir.
I mean, that seems a high number to lose for a target like this. Give it a D for civilian casualties. Let's see what we've got. C-A-A-D. Let's give it a solid C+ and put it before the president. All right, what's next?
Jesus, there's a guy on the wall at the river entrance!
Hey, wait a minute! Stop!
Don't! Don't!
Get down from there! Get up!
Please, please, the baby! No!
I could never again raise my voice against the violence of the oppressed in the ghettos without having spoken first clearly to the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today, my own government.
Anti-war demonstrations yet brought hundreds of thousands of protesters to the streets of America. America's cities. The radicals say that since peaceful demonstrations won't end the war, they're ready to move from protest to resistance. With talk of full-scale rebellion sweeping the country from college campuses to the inner cities, the mood is turning ugly. And there's a dangerous sense that the nation's political life is spinning out of control.
For it seems now more certain than ever that the bloody experience of Vietnam is to end in a stalemate. This summer's almost certain standoff will either end in real give and take negotiations or terrible escalation. But it is increasingly clear to this reporter that the only rational way out then will be to negotiate, not as victors, but as an honorable people who lived up to their pledge to defend democracy and did the best they could. This is Walter Cronkite. Good night.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. Tonight, I want to speak to you of peace in Vietnam and Southeast Asia. We are prepared to move immediately towards peace through negotiations. We are substantially reducing the present level of hostilities, and we are doing so unilaterally and at once. Tonight, I have ordered our aircraft and our naval vessels make no more attacks on North Vietnam, except in the area north of the demilitarized zone, where the continuing enemy buildup directly threatens Allied forward positions. The area in which we are stopping our attacks includes almost 90% of North Vietnam's population and most of its territory. Our purpose in this action is to bring about a reduction in the level of violence that now exists. It is to save the lives of brave men and to save the lives of innocent women and children. Now, as in the past, the United States is ready to send its representatives to any forum at any time to discuss the means of bringing this ugly war to an end. There is a division in the American House now. There is divisiveness among us all tonight. With America's sons in the fields far away, with America's future under challenge right here at home, with our hopes and the world's hope for peace in the balance every day, I do not believe that I should devote an hour or a day of my time to any personal partisan causes or to any duties other than the awesome duties of this office, the presidency of your country. Accordingly, I shall not seek, and I will not accept the nomination of my party for another term as your president. But let men everywhere know, however, that a strong and a confident and a vigilant America stands ready tonight to seek an honorable peace and stands ready tonight to defend an honored cause, whatever the prize, whatever the burden, whatever the sacrifice that duty may require. Thank you for listening. Good night, and God bless you all.